Hello and welcome back to Joe's Math Tools. In our session today, we are calculating or rather solving another equation involving fractions. And if you're ready, let's get started. So in our fraction that we're solving today, we have three different denominators involved in our fraction. But remember that whenever you are solving fractions with unlike denominators, the first thing you need to do is find your LCD. So remember that when you're looking for the LCD is pretty much the same thing as looking for the LCM. And remember that we just use D because the numbers are in the denominator. But we're still looking for the lowest common multiple that our numbers 2, 3, and 4 would have in common. Now with these three numbers, the one multiple that comes to mind quickly is 12. So we're now going to be converting all of our fractions into their equivalent form with a denominator of 12. So we're going to start with our first fraction, which is j thirds. And remember that we have to change that to equivalent form where 12 is the denominator. And when changing my fraction to its equivalent form, I'm looking for the number that I multiply 3 by that's going to equal to 12. And I know that when I multiply 4 times 3, that would equal to 12. And remember that whatever we multiply our denominator by, our numerator would also be multiplied to the exact same thing. So 4 times j will equal to 4j. So my equivalent fraction for my j thirds is 4j twelfths. So now let's work on our second fraction, which is 1/4. And with 1/4, we're going to do the exact same thing that we just did in the first fraction. So we're looking for that number that when I multiply 4 by, it will equal to 12. And we know that 3 times 4 is equal to 12. And when 3 is multiplied to 1, that will equal to 3. So my equivalent form for this fraction is just 3. Now that we have all of these fractions in their equivalent form, we're going to now work them out without the denominator. And now let's begin by collecting our like terms. And since 3 and 6 are the only constants, I'll be moving my 3 to the right hand side of my equation with my 6. And since 3 is being added on the left hand side, I will subtract it on the right hand side. So 4j is equal to 3. And now applying our one-step rule when we're multiplying, meaning I'm going to divide both sides of my equation by 4. So j will be left alone, and we find that j is equal to 3/4. Okay, so let's check our answer. So we found that j is equal to 3/4. That means I'm going to be substituting 3/4 for j everywhere that it appears in the equation. So since j appears in my numerator for 3, I will have 3/4 all over 3 being added to 1/4, which is equal to 1/2. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I will now simplify my numerators. Well, I will simplify this first fraction with my 3/4 all over 3. And I want you to remember that 3/4 all over 3 just simply means that 3/4 is being divided by 3. And we know that when it comes to our whole numbers all have a denominator of 1. So I will write my 3 with its denominator of 1. And now I will begin applying my rule. So when dividing fraction, which is also multiplying fractions. So we're going to keep our first fraction the same, change my division sign to multiplication, and then take the reciprocal of my second fraction, or flip it as we're most commonly heard said. So we're going to take the reciprocal, and now let's multiply. So 3 times 1 is 3, and 4 times 3 is equal to 12. And here's the crazy part. Before I put this back into my equation, what I'm going to do is simplify this fraction. Now, I can simplify this fraction and work it out from here, which I can show you that we're going to simplify by dividing both parts of our fraction by 3. So 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 3 divided by 4 and 12 divided by 3 is 4, which will equal to 1/4. And I can plug in my 1/4 plus my 1/4 is equal to 1/2. And I know that when 1 plus 1, it's going to be 2/4 equal to 1/2. And when I reduce this fraction by dividing by 2, I will get 1/2 is equal to 1/2. Now, there is something else I could have done. Now, let's convert our 1/2 also to its equivalent form where 12 is in the denominator. And just like we did with the last two fractions, I'm also looking for a number that when I multiply to 2, it's going to equal to 12. And I know that 6 times 2 is 12, so 6 times 1 will equal to 6. So my equation is now equal to 6. So remember I mentioned here where we got our 3/12. I'm going to just draw in a little line here. It's going to be a bit messy. What I could have done with that 3/12 is just plug that back into my equation here and then still solve the equation as usual. I would have had 3/12 being added to my 1/4 equal to 1/2, and then I could have done what we did when we solved our equation the first time, which is find the LCD of 12, 4, and 2, which we know would equal to 12, and then change all of these fractions to their equivalent form again. So since 3/12 already has the denominator of 12, I will just return the 3. And then when it comes to my 4, I know that when I multiply 4 times 3, it will equal 12. And so 1 times 3 will equal to 3. And then we would have had our 2, and we know that 2 times 6 is 12. So that means that 1 times 6 will also equal to 6. And then we would have had 3 plus 3 equals 6, which we know 6 is equal to 6. So this is an alternative method that you could have also used to solve or to check this answer. But notice that in both cases, even though our answers are different, they still equal to the exact same thing on both sides, which tells us that our answer, j equals 3/4, is the correct answer for this equation. So remember that when solving these algebraic equations involving fractions, all you're doing is testing your knowledge of fractions and its rules. So if you're a little shaky in fractions, then solving these types of questions may be a little bit difficult. But overall, if you love fractions like I love them, then this is going to be easy for you. But if you don't, remember to just practice to improve your skills, and you will get better with time. And when you're ready to learn a new skill, remember to return back to Joe's Math Tools, where math is made easy.